Okay, welcome to those of you who are tuning in to watch the recording or the live stream. We're back at High Mountain Presbyterian Church. I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, and this is our ongoing attempt for years now to sort of read through and listen to and analyze the reading of the Bible and try to translate it into our own lives and see where we end up. So, how are you feeling, Debbie?
Well, a little better now. I don't know what it is. When I wake up in the morning is when I feel the worst.
Yeah.
Almost stuffy again. I don't know. But now, as the day goes on, I feel better. I'm sorry I'm not there, but...
Oh, that's okay. No, it's all right.
Yeah.
And I guess Barbara's not going to come today. Did you hear?
I didn't hear anything.
She didn't look like she was feeling very well last night.
Not at all.
Does she have COVID?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And other things as well. This infection with the fever is going around too. It's like, I don't know, variations of a theme.
Mm-hmm.
We need spring. Bring on the spring.
Right.
Warm air and sunshine.
We were supposed to have a concert. We have the first Friday of every month. The Old Stone concert.
Yes.
Our music director and his husband are going to be the entertainers because the husband is a Broadway star,
Okay.
And it was going to be all, musical. And everybody was so excited to go. But he got COVID, so it's canceled.
Yep. It's happening everywhere. What? We can still be together this way and present our program for those that will watch either from home live or later. So why don't we begin and get the topic on the table that is in front of us. I think we are at 57. Isaiah chapter 57. Does that concur with your bookmarks, Debbie?
I have no bookmarks. I usually use my phone, so I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I'm pretty sure that's where we are. We last time we began. I remember the language of 56, especially the part about "Do not let the foreigner join to the Lord, say the Lord." Anyway, so I think we're at 57. So let's read from there. Debbie, will you be willing to read?
Sure. The righteous perish, and no one considers why. The devout are taken away, while no one understands that it is due to evil that the righteous are taken away. Those who walk uprightly enter into peace, and rest on their couches. But as for you, come here, you children of a sorceress, you offspring of an adulterer and a prostitute. Whom are you mocking? Against whom do you open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue? Are you not children of transgression, the offspring of deceit, you who burn with lust among the oaks, under every tree, you who slaughter your children in the valleys, under the cleft of the rocks? Among the smooth stones of the valley is your portion. It is they who are your lot. For them you have poured out a drink offering. You have brought a grain offering. Should these acts cause me to relent? Upon a high and lofty mountain you have set your pet, and there you went up to offer sacrifice. Behind the door and the doorpost you have set up your symbol. For in deserting me, you have uncovered your bed, you have gone up to it, you have made it wide, and you have made a bargain for yourself with them. You have loved their bed, you have gazed on their nakedness. You journeyed to Molech, with oil and multiplied your perfumes. You sent your envoys far away and sent them down to Sheol. You grew weary from your many wanderings, but you did not say it is of no use. You found your desire rekindled, and so you did not weaken. Whom did you dread and fear so that you lied and did not remember me or give me a thought? Have I not kept silent and closed my eyes, and so you do not fear me? I will announce your verdict, and the objects you made will not help you. When you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you. The wind will carry them off, a breath will take them away. But whoever takes refuge in me will possess the land and inherit my holy mountain. It shall be said, build up, prepare the way, remove every obstruction from my people's way. For thus says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, and also with those who are contrite and humble in spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite. For I will not continually accuse, nor will I always be angry. For then the spirits would grow faint before me, even the souls that I have made. Because of their wicked covetousness, I was angry. I struck them. I hid and was angry. But they kept turning back to their own ways. I have seen their ways, but I will heal them. I will lead them and repay them with hurt, creating for their mourners the fruit of the lips. Peace, peace to the far and the near, says the Lord, and I will heal them. But the wicked are like the tossing sea that cannot keep still. Its waters toss up mire and mud. There is no peace, says my God, for the wicked.
Okay. Wow, it's a wide-ranging narrative in this one. Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
We can't see you, but we can see that you're here.
You can.
No,
I'm here.
no, you're not on my video.
Well,
But we hear you.
whatever.
Let me see if I can. Sometimes.
What verse was that?
57.
57. Why am I so much further up?
I don't know.
Yes.
Let me see what I've got. See if I can turn on your video. Nope, it says your video is on, but it's not on mine. Debbie, do you see
It's
it?
okay. You can hear me.
Yeah.
You don't have to see me.
Okay.
Your box is there with your name, but I can't see you.
That's weird. I can see you. I can see me. Oh, well.
Yep. Yeah, so that was 57. And, in preparing for today, I read the background of this is that this writer, named Isaiah, but Isaiah, the third Isaiah, this writer is particularly inflamed that the world around him has pretty much been given over to sex. Everything. Moloch is the god of sexuality and fertility, and he can't see the different behaviors happening between the people of faith in God, and they're out of control. They're pursuing their base desires and building, making idols and statues to them, and following and pursuing sexual pleasure. This was one of the things that, all the way back to the conquest of the land, that Moses said should mark out this people from the other people, is that they should have their sexual behavior not as animals, but it should be under control, and it should be, directed, decently and in order, as Presbyterians would say. And these people are pursuing lust and entertainment and pleasure. And their pursuit of pleasure has made it, in the beginning, the very first couple of verses say, you know, the righteous, the people that are trying to live their lives in a decent way, they live and they die and nobody notices and nobody cares. Seems like the world that he's living in, people only care about this one thing, like success in sexual expression. So, what do you think about that? What's your reaction to those comments?
What I got out of it.
Who is actually narrating? Is it the writer as a human being, or is that the writer speaking in God's voice? Sometimes it sounds like God speaking to the people. Sometimes it sounds like another party.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I feel like most of it is the prophet or the voice of the person who is rising up, and then even sometimes trying to speak for God, still trying to say, you know, I have done this for you, or in the end, you know, it almost becomes first person from God. I have seen their ways, I will heal them. I will lead them and repay them with comfort, which I find the writing doesn't go in the direction that I expected it to go. You know, he details how out of control society has become, how hedonistic and pleasure-seeking they all are, to the neglect of anything of, you know, decency in life and good things about what's supposed to be good in life, you know, caring and compassion for each other, caring for one another, which has been left off entirely. You know, he's like, you're not extending any care. Everything is about selfishness and the selfish pursuit of pleasure. But when you get to the second movement of it, and God begins to speak in person, there's this incredible promise of God that I will not punish this people. You know, I will love them. I will forgive them. I will draw them back to me. Reviving the spirit. I will not continually be angry, because otherwise they would grow faint. The people would grow faint before me. Instead, God takes a different, it's not a tough love statement at all. It's almost like last night, the beautiful image of God insisting that, you know, my business in this earth is not to find people who fail and then destroy them. That's not my business. My business is to find people who are having difficulty living life in a way that's purposeful and meaningful, and then help to get them back on the track.
Mm-hmm. This theme of when you make idols, okay, when you're in trouble, call out to your idols, see how much they help you. This comes up a lot in a lot of parts in the Bible. It also comes up a lot in the Quran. God really doesn't like idol worship, I guess, because, you know, it's the worst thing you can do in Islam is shirk, you know, take idols in place of God. And here also.
Yeah, I'm, this is an echo throughout, right? That says, oh, you're going to believe in something other than Yahweh or the God of, you know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, fine. But you'll be sorry. You know, they will not answer your call. So I'm going to say something I'll probably regret saying, but I live my life and I don't experience following God and loving God as all that much I cry out for help and God responds. Like, I don't. Like, I'm not trying, I don't know. Though I said it. What do you think about what I just said?
You don't have the expectation that God will respond when you cry out. But you assume, well, I shouldn't say what you assume. I assume that God is there already and knows what is going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly how we explain the fact that God is not a, God is not an instant responder, you know?
Right.
God is not an instant responder, and, you know, you have to be able to endure in the long haul. So why couldn't the people who construct idols say the same thing? You know, we'll cry out to our idols, but you know what? It takes a long time for things to come back around. And I think that people turn to idols, if we can translate it into contemporary times, people turn to things for comfort and strength other than God because sometimes it does have immediate payoff. You know, one of the reasons that people take drugs that they know might harm them is because that in the moment of them taking the drugs and in the 12 hours that follow, they have ecstasy. They have this relief. So you could say, well, I was just listening to a radio broadcast this morning on the incredible spread of fentanyl in the United States and the use of fentanyl. And it's spreading through Canada and around the world. And it's exploding. But it's dangerous. It's deadly. And it produces, you know, a euphoria. So in some ways it delivers better than God does, you know?
Well, it's an impermanent kind of a thing. I mean, most drug addicts understand that it's each time you use it, the effects grow shorter and you need more, and you'd soon come to realize that, you know, that's not the way. But also here, I guess it's 15, 16, between 15 and 16. Let's see. God, I guess, is speaking here. I'm thinking it's God.
Yeah.
I dwell in the high and holy place, and also with those who are contrite and humble in spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and revive the heart of the contrite. Maybe, you know, if you're looking for some big dramatic event, it's not going to happen. But if you let God into your life, your spirit is revived. It may not be satisfying to a lot of people, but I think over time, you know, a revived spirit, a contrite heart, that's got to be better than any flash in the pan kind of a fantastic, you know, like taking drugs or having a lot of money and then it's gone. And those things they come and they go. But if your heart is right with God, I don't know how to express it. I think the writer tries to express it here. That's a longer lasting, more satisfying, even though it doesn't seem like it should. It's not as exciting as Molech and the cult of sex. I mean, come on, but you know, I think it's in the end is way more satisfying.
Yeah.
I would think.
No, I think that's the point. I do. I think that is, in fact, the point. As you were talking, I was thinking about every Tuesday night when I come in to do the Bible study, there's a group of men that meet in the lounge here, and they've been meeting here for years. And last night was a big collection. I don't know, maybe 15, 20 men. And they're seated around in a room, and these are men. I don't know any of them by name, but what I know about them is they could be this group of people who at one point in their lives pursued Moloch. They pursued drinking, they pursued instantaneous solutions, and now they sit in a group. It's not pretty, it's not an awesome room, but the awesomeness of it is that in their contriteness and in their humility with each other and their simple sharing, those for whom the program is working are finding a greater life than they ever had when they were drinking and drugging. You know, and that's the contrast. I really think that is the best translation of this entire text. That, you know, it's not flashy. It's not, it's not, you know, come along and boy, we'll have just a great time. They spend 1 hour, but in 1 hour every week, they reconstruct the life of humility and the life that ultimately gives them a longer direction of happiness and quality of life.
I get
I
it.
think having humility is not always so easy because we feel we should be able to do it ourselves and take care of ourselves, and to say that we need the other, whether it's another person or it's God or spirit, but to realize that we need to depend on someone or some spirit is not so easy to admit.
Yeah, and it's getting a quality of life in small pieces that builds a big life, rather than getting a great big moment in life all at once. You know, I look at this. You know, you can picture them. You journeyed to Moloch with oil and multiplied your perfumes. You sent your envoys far away to, I guess, to find these perfumes, which were to give them ecstasy, and maybe there were even these perfumes, in fact, may have been drugs. You grew weary from your many wanderings, but you did not say it is useless. You did not, it's wearing you out, it's killing you in its big drama, but you did not turn away. Instead, you found your desire rekindled, and so you did not weaken. This, to me, this is an addict. This is a definition of a person or a culture that is addicted to something that is killing them and wearing them out, but they're throwing more and more and more resources at that way of life. And then, again, the amazing thing is that God's response in that whole second half is, there's no winning by me getting angry and destroying you. I'm gonna continue to beckon you to come back. You see the foolishness of your ways when you're sober. You know, you see it. So come in the direction of life.
Yeah, I think God's realizing that humanity is really good at destroying itself. God doesn't need to destroy.
Right, exactly. And evidently, go ahead.
And I was going to mention this part where it talks about infanticide, killing your children. I mean, that was so common. Especially if you had girl children, they were useless. So, you know, stick them out in the wilderness to die, or stick them under a rock. And you're taking a gift from God and wasting it. And it seems so awful, you know.
Yeah, especially because having children, I mean, I get it. Like, having a female was not considered the pathway to, you know, life that you wanted. But for goodness sakes, I mean, you can't have eternity. You can't have eternal life with just males. Like, you know, you can't. It's not how it works. But it's a craziness. It's an insanity that comes with this kind of compulsive living. These things that exist in life, whether it's money or sex, or whether it's feeling good, you know, people get addicted to feeling good. I went to a study in Colorado on addiction years ago now, and they were talking about that one of the big undiagnosed addictions is adrenaline. That the human body can release this powerful drug of adrenaline. And it changes everything. It changes your mood, it changes your ability, everything. But there are people who become addicted to adrenaline. And so they build their lives unknowingly somehow, or unaware, to constantly welcome chaos. and the chaos comes, and you know, things get out of hand, and all of a sudden they're getting their favorite drug, and they don't have to buy it on the street corner. The body produces it. The alternative to that is talked about on almost every page of the Bible, where it talks about taking time to meditate, taking time to center yourself, be aware of who you are, and enjoy the quieter things, the less, dramatic things of life. And learn that that's the pathway where real life and quality of life exists. You know, sitting around in a room with 12 men talking about your experiences and trying to fight off your desire to ruin your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound very exciting, but in the end, it may not be exciting, but it's life. And it's good life. And then people can love you, and you can love people. And life can actually continue.
I mean, after all, we get warned about burning the candle at both ends. You're going to burn yourself out. Why not take life carefully and, and some thought into what you're doing, so that you have a better, longer life, rather than a super exciting but short and kind of ugly life. I don't know.
Well, it isn't as exciting, and in a culture that is addicted and says the only things worth doing are the things that are really just, blown out, full of excitement. More excitement.
Well, look at our movies.
Yeah.
What are the ones that end up being the most popular? Are the ones where there's an explosion on the screen every 5 minutes? Is that how you want to? Well, I guess it can be entertaining from time to time. You're not actually participating in it, but it gives an insight into what we think is important or, worthwhile. It has to blow up. It has to, people have to kill each other for people to be entertained. It almost reminds me of, you sat in the Coliseum and watched people, torn apart by animals, and it's horrible. It's murder. What are you doing? But as long as it's a movie, I guess we're okay with it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess, but, but it's still movie or in real life. It still feeds to that idea that, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this and then I'll maybe take it back, that I think we've created a way of life in this century and this time, which is actually quite boring. It's 100 years ago, people were struggling to get food, survive, make it work, and they needed to work physically, and there was a lot of engagement. But our pursuit of leisure and our pursuit of time off has ended us with very boring and sometimes meaningless lives. And then that's what we have to fill them with. We have to fill them with, the adventure of the out of control. I think, I'm not sure, but I think the writers of Scripture, this prophet in particular, who wrote this down, is describing that very dynamic. And he's putting it in very theological language. He's talking about, where is God in all of this? That God probably would be encouraging you to stop your journeys off to find something bigger, stronger, higher, louder, faster, all that. And maybe you want to stop the pursuit of all that and take a look at what it's doing to your life. Because your life is falling apart. I mean, I have a nephew who is all out committed to his alcohol. He's not taking anybody's observation that his life is failing and that he physically cannot contain and do what he's doing. He doesn't care. He enjoys his life, and he's going to continue to do that, even if, as the doctors say, if he drinks much longer, his liver is going to fall out and he's going to die. But he looks at that and says, that's ridiculous. I can live this life at my own pace, the way I like to do it. So, I guess this prophet would be saying, well, if at any point he decides that, he doesn't want to pursue that, God is ready, willing, and able to help him back onto a stable life platform. And that's what I see that happens in the recovery groups. There's people that have been in recovery for 20, 30 years, and they feel like God gave them their life back while they were trying to pour it out on the ground. Well, that was pretty.
That's my phone.
I thought maybe God was going to enter the conversation here for a second.
You're right.
Sound like
Playing
You
the
like my harp?
yeah, there's the signal. Everybody shut up and let's listen to what happens next.
Oh my goodness.
I wonder, is there anything else in this passage that jumps out at you? It's a long passage, but it's really just two parts and two movements. I think it's interesting that the prophet says that God, seeing the destructive behavior of human beings, just kept silent. Just kept silent, stood by and watched while it got worse and worse.
Jesus.
Yeah. I guess the voice in this that's supposed to be God is saying, I'm not always going to chastise you. So, by now you should know what's harmful for you and what's good. I'm not always going to be there to smite the evildoers, and I think that's probably the writer realizing that, if people do bad things, they don't ought to, all of a sudden fall down dead. God is not there doing that.
Right.
So the explanation is God is saying, I'm not always going to do that.
Right.
I will look the other way. You're not on your own. But when you act like you're on your own, you're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, trying to relay it to something very concrete, I think about the guy or woman in the bar who's had too much to drink and decides, they're going to drive home. And the bartender says, no, you shouldn't do that. And they go, well, you know what, I'm going to be okay. So they get in their car and they are drunk, but they manage to get home. They manage to make it. And so the next time they're in that same situation, they reason, well, you don't always get in an accident when you're drunk and you drive. So yeah, I'm going to do it again tonight. And that's the same thing. It's like, well, just because God doesn't strike you dead or drive you into a telephone pole every time you're inebriated when you're driving, it doesn't change the risk that you're taking for yourself and for everybody else. But to the person who's the addict, it feels like, see, I told you, it was no big deal. It wasn't a problem at all. And I guess that's God keeping silent, right?
Yeah.
Have I not kept silent and closed my eyes? And therefore you do not fear me. Wow. So if you can get away with it, why not do it? There's nothing to be afraid of. This will be fine. Everything will be fine. Until it's not.
Right.
And when you cry out, he goes on in verse 13, when you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you. When things do go bad, then you figure it out. The wind will carry them off, a breath will take them away. But whoever takes refuge in me shall possess the land and inherit my holy mountain. This is an invitation to living a sober life, contrasted to hedonism and sexual exploitation that is a part of the life of the people that he sees.
Mm.
I was, for just a few minutes last night, I was watching, I've seen it before, but I was watching that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. And I don't know anything about what is pictured in that movie, but it's the story, you know, of a Wall Street trader on junk bonds who made very fast money and then invited, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people to join his sort of spurious company. And that, you know, at the end of every workday, they had an orgy in their office. You know, they just, alcohol and prostitutes and it was living the high life. And they would have parties where outrageous things would happen. Now, I have no firsthand knowledge of anything like that in my life or in anybody else's life. But I understand that today, especially, it's out there. It's there. It's the way some people live. And, you know, they crawl into work on Monday morning having lived a whole weekend of debauchery. I don't know. Is that the message? Or is that who we're talking to here? I don't know. The movie itself is pretty wild. All right, well, I don't know. It seems kind of quiet on this. Maybe we should move on to another chapter. What do you think?
Oh, sure.
Okay. 58 then.
Okay. Oh, gosh. Wait a minute. Okay. 58. Shout out. Do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. And they ask of me righteous judgments. They want God on their side. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interests on your fast day and oppress all your workers. You fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose a day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Keep losing my place. Hold on. Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your hearing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall rise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. If you refrain from trampling the Sabbath, from pursuing your own interests on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and the holy day of the Lord honorable, if you honor it, not going your own ways and serving your own interests or pursuing your own affairs, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride upon here. I will fill you with the heritage of your ancestor Jacob, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken.
Well, sometimes the readings aren't clear, and then sometimes they are.
It says a call to repentance and promise of restoration. The Lord calls upon the people to repent and defines the criteria by which they observe the covenant.
Yeah, this again, that comment makes it even clearer. It goes back to my statements that throughout the reading of the Hebrew Scriptures, we hear them refer to the law and the covenant. What is the law and the covenant? The law and the covenant is summarized here in this passage in very clear language. This is each of the places where the people are being called back to be obedient to the Lord. There's no mention of sacrificial rites here. There's no mention of right theology. There's no mentions of, creeds they need to say. It is very concrete that the covenant of God is a promise of God to be a blessing to the families of the earth, and in particular, to be a blessing to those who are poor, who are hungry, who are under the weight of injustice and oppression. This is it. This is the pathway of life. So come on, let's get back to what this is supposed to be about, instead of all the constructs, the unnecessary constructs that develop. People say, oh, they're observing a fast, and really all they're doing is depriving themselves of food so they have the right to get into fistfights with each other. It makes a mockery of the ritual, that when the ritual is not based in living life according to what God has clearly made as the pathway for a life worth living and what God wants. It's beautiful, beautiful language.
Mm-hmm.
This is the ordinance of God. And it gives clues at the end. At the end of it, it kind of gives clues that the beginning of getting in this right mindset is to have a day of a Sabbath that is really dedicated to God, a day of centering, a day of meditation, and leaving off the pursuits of your life. The day of rest, the day of Sabbath, is a day of restoration. And then when you're restored, and you can go out into life with that center together, you're more likely than not to see the poor, to see the naked, and respond in generosity to them. Is it just me? I mean,
Nope.
that's pretty clear about what's said here, isn't it?
Yep. Those who fast and humble themselves, but not with the intention of doing righteous deeds, are just serving themselves. How can you fast and say you're doing it for God, and at the same time are oppressing the poor and cheating your workers and whatever? That's not the purpose of the fast. I mean, you're just a hypocrite.
Yeah. Yes, a hypocritical religion. The practice of a hypocritical religion that uses all the right words. It uses words like Sabbath and fast and all that. But when you look at the implications, you look at what life comes out of it, you see the opposite of what God desires for the world. And then the promise, of course, is if you if you can get recentered and get back to what matters in life and do these things, then your light will rise. You will begin to see life. You begin to discover joy and happiness again. And you shall cry for help, and God will say, here I am. It's quite a promise. You know, we never like the transactional stuff of, you know, you do this for me and I'll do this for you. But here, it's not even quite that coarse. It just says, look, you know, if you listen to what I've been saying all along about how to live your life, then you'll find life. You know, it'll be there for you. And we'll get back on the track of being a generation, a race, if you will, of grace, of people who live on the planet seeking opportunities to bless people and to lift the burden of poverty and injustice. That then will build a legacy. It's a promise that out of that will come a life which is eternal, worth living. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very easy. Easy for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Easy to talk about.
Sounds simple to do, but not always. Stay on the straight and narrow.
Well, in verse 11, the Lord will guide you. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in the parched places. And make your bones strong.
You got another bat?
Sounds like Colette.
She's gone.
Yeah,
No, somebody's on an iPhone.
yeah.
Somebody new. Hello. Yeah. Well, there's one spot in here, you know, of course, unyoke the oppressed, feed the hungry, cover the naked, make a home for the homeless. But it also says something about not hiding from your kin.
Yeah, I wonder what that is.
Yeah. And do not hide yourself from your own kin.
I wonder if part of that is that, you know, sometimes there's a tendency for people to ignore their family who are in need, you know, and
Oh,
I'm going to mute that
that's
There
there.
you go.
You know how it's like there's a kind of a, I don't know, a cultural value that says if you're in need, ask your family first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if you reply back and say, well, you know, my family ignores me, you know, I can't get any help from my family. And sometimes that means that people won't get help at all, because if the family won't help them, then, you know, but if family helps first, and then, you know, you can maybe think that you'll get some help from others. I don't know if I should turn the mic back on for Colette or not.
Oh, she's back.
Yep, you're back.
She's
Okay.
talking.
She's talking. I better turn her mic back on.
Oh,
Let's see. Colette, right now you're muted, so if you can hit your unmute button so we can hear you again.
Okay.
There you
Here
are.
you
are.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that these Psalms, which are in this third Isaiah, are so, I mean, I almost wish that this was all there was to Isaiah. You know? What do we have to put up with all that other stuff for? Because it's not enlightening. those other threats and angriness and all the rest of that, it's not enlightening at all. It's not helpful. But here, I mean, look, this is like the gospel in one chapter. And there is no distinction between the word of Isaiah here in chapter 58 and the words and the preaching and teaching of Jesus. None. They are synonymous. And you know, the Presbyterian denomination, whenever they want to do a big mailing or a big campaign, they always go to Isaiah 58. They always take excerpts of that, and they say, you know, let's be the repairers of the breach. In fact, right, isn't that one of the phrases on the posters for One Great Hour of Sharing, Barbara?
Probably.
I mean,
Sounds like it should be.
Yeah. I like, you know, and there's another ministry in Atlanta where their byline is "Restorer of the Streets to Live in." You know, it's a powerful, powerful image of where is God, what does God want from us. And again, I'm sorry to say it, so much of the community of the Christian church, I don't know how it is in other religion, in Jewish faith or in Islam, but so much of energy has been committed to orthodoxy, learning to say the right things, learning to believe the right things, learning to, you know, subscribe to the right thoughts and make sure that you have the right understanding. And the wheels are spun around all of that. And yet, when you look at what it comes down to, as far as at least the prophet in Isaiah is talking about, is, look, just get on to the work, to the word. The word is a work. And it will immediately bless your life. It will. And you don't have to have the correct theology.
Right. I mean, if you're fasting, okay, you're fasting. But what does it mean?
Yeah.
If the intention is just to make yourself look good, and then you're going to go ahead and do all the rotten things to your family, to your coworkers, to the people in your community, what is your fasting worth? Nothing. So, basic. I think all three faiths want you to look beyond the ritual for ritual's sake into why you're doing these things, to keep you humble, to remind you, you know, it's not to make yourself look good, not to be a hypocrite.
Yeah, I really have to, sometimes I have to just tuck my old self away. I was at a party for baptism this past Sunday afternoon, and so baptism was a topic. People were talking about it, and it happened to be a baby that was baptized in the Roman Catholic Church, you know, as an infant. And so the adults around the food table started talking about baptism, and one was Greek Orthodox who said, well, you know, I was immersed, but it was when I was an infant, and then somebody else had been baptized as a teenager, you know, which is what I was, and I'm listening. And this one person says, well, you know, I was baptized in the Presbyterian church when I was an infant, but I don't think that counts. I don't think that, because now I go to a church that believes that, you know, you have to be baptized as an adult or it doesn't really count. So they went on to say that they had agreed and they joined the church, but in order to join the church, they had to be immersed and baptized. So my old self, right, my old doctrinal self comes to the surface, and I have to put my hand over my mouth to say, well, that's not correct. You shouldn't be baptized again. I mean, wars were fought over that. You know, there's one baptism, one faith, one communion, and I have to put my hand over my mouth and say, what difference does it make?
Mm-hmm.
What difference does it make? What? Go ahead, be baptized 50 times. I don't care. The question is, when you come up out of the water, what is the orientation of your faith? What is the action of your life towards? Is it towards humility and love of the human beings that live on the planet? Then great. If it took 10 baptisms for you to get there, okay. But the past of the Christian church is filled with ideas of orthodoxy and correctness and correct doctrine, way more than it ever was around the idea of correct living.
I think most faith, one of the messages on last Friday's sermon was, why don't we stop fighting about where you put your hands when you say Allahu Akbar? How, we're fighting about this. We're missing the big picture. Why are we doing all this petty stuff? And we tend to do that. It's true. And isn't baptism more for the community and not the person? I mean, isn't the idea, especially with an infant who's baptized, that you're welcoming this new soul into the community and you will take care of that person? So it's a commitment from the community as much as anything for the benefit, the spiritual benefit of the infant. It doesn't matter if you're an infant. The community is saying, we will take you in. We will care for you. We will be there for you. And, you can do that as an adult. You can do that at any time. Doesn't make it any less important, I think.
Well, I think
But that is very Presbyterian
I was gonna
way.
say.
I'm not sure if it's all Protestants, because as a Catholic, baptism is, if a child is not baptized, they can never go to heaven.
yeah.
They can't
They would have
bury
to-
in the churchyard. Yeah.
Go to purgatory first. So, I know my brother-in-law baptized one of his grandchildren because he was very upset that they hadn't been baptized and was concerned about it. But it's a very different thing. In the Catholic Church, baptism is, it's an absolute, have to do it as immediately so the child won't go to purgatory.
And also, I think the other extreme is, that was a very good Reformed Presbyterian definition of baptism. But if you move, the Catholics obviously different. If you move the other direction and you go into the Baptist church, it is absolutely individual. It is about the individual. It's the individual's profession of faith on which then they are baptized, and it's about strengthening the individual's life. So, and again, the point I want to make is, okay, all of that. There are your three big traditions about the meaning of this event. In the end, read Isaiah and ask, which of these lends itself best to what Isaiah is saying is the true faith? Which of these leads a person to repairing the breach, of making the streets livable again, of rescuing the poor and feeding the hungry? In some ways, whatever it takes,
Right.
to get people to a place where they can, live into that reality. Hey, there's Barbara. Hi, Barbara.
We've suddenly
I'm
seen
sitting
you.
here all alone.
Well, so Colette,
Do the Baptists also have confirmation?
no, baptism is the confirmation.
Right.
Oh.
Because I'm thinking what you're talking about is confirmation. In the Unitarian Church where two of my grandchildren are raised, there is no baptism. It's called a dedication ceremony, and they are named then. And then there's no confirmation. It's called a coming of age.
Yeah. And in the Baptist church, they do a dedication for the infant. So there is an infant event. I had a theology professor who said the only difference really between the Reformed tradition and the Baptist tradition is when is the water used. In the Baptist tradition, there's no water at the infant dedication. But then the baptism becomes a confirmation, but at age 13 or 15, water, you're put in the water. And so all of these things, I think we live in an age now that is much more tolerant, and that no one is going to say, if you're a Catholic, you're not a Christian. At least anybody that's informed. And no one is going to say, oh, a group of Baptists moved in down the street from us. We have to go down there and we have to convert them to Presbyterianism. I mean, I don't think that's happening. You know, I don't think that we care that much about the distinctives. In fact, if you go into any congregation and ask people, you know, okay, so we're a Presbyterian church. Do you know what Presbyterian is? They don't really know. The question is, do you like this church? You know, is this friendly to you? Do you feel a part of this? And that's the end of it for them. The doctrines have fallen way behind in terms of importance. So, and I think that's probably okay as long as what moves in its place is a passion for the action of faith. You know, and I'm happy to be a pastor alive in a time where, quote, missions isn't a secondary thing, but is an identity of a church. What are you doing? What are you doing as a church? What on this list of things here, how many of them are you actually responding to? And do you realize that if you're not, it may not be the faith, the true faith of God and of Jesus that is motivating you. There might be something else. But I don't know. I guess it's partly because I'm getting older, but you know, when I was in seminary, my gosh, you know, the subtleties of the distinctions about, you know, the incarnation, fully God and fully human, Jesus, and being able to subscribe to the correct doctrine of the incarnation and having it right and getting it right, knowing how it was right. I can't tell you how much I don't care about those distinctions anymore. I just don't.
Well, you should have been Catholic and had to read the Summa Theologica by St. Thomas Aquinas about how many angels can fit on the head of a pin or something.
Well, and in my theology graduate courses, we did read that. And we did discuss, we didn't discuss, everybody always laughs about the angels on the head of a pin. But as soon as we're done laughing about that, then we begin arguing about the correct mode of baptism. You know, we see that as ridiculous, but there are things we see that are not ridiculous. Or even worse, what do the elements in communion have to be? You know, is it communion if it's leavened
Wonder
bread?
bread.
Yeah, or is it really correct? And then there was that terribly controversial women's conference where they served, what did they serve, milk and honey or something? It was like, and everybody was convinced that
The reimagining.
the
wasn't that-
reimagining conference, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we ran away from that in a hurry because
I think because women instituted it.
of course, that's right. That's why we kept women out all along, because they were going to come along with these ideas, you know? What do you mean you're going to serve honeycomb bread and have honey and milk? You're going to pour milk out of that pitcher? I don't think so. But that was...
I think it's actually encouraging here that the writer in this chapter does not make distinctions on who is getting this message and who is going to be bestowed with, you know, being let go out of oppression. And they don't say, you know, do this for just your neighbor, but not for the guy who lives in the next town, or do this for, you know, don't do this for the Philistines, but do this for only your own. There's a universality here that is very also kind of modern and liberal too.
Yes, it is. It reminds me of, I don't know whether it was Psalm or whether it was Isaiah last week, a similar kind of thing. All of a sudden there's this great liberality. There's this incredible vision of all the world and the God of all the world calling to people of all the world to be doing these things for each other as a way of life, because I am God and I created the world and this is how I'm calling you to live.
Yeah, God's not saying only you Catholics or only you Baptists or only you Jews or only you Muslims. This is universal.
Yeah, this is.
It's encouraging.
Yeah. and ancient. You know, this is not newfangled liberalism. This is actually, you could argue you're being very conservative. I'm a very conservative person. I want the good old time religion. You know, I want the religion that was the ancient word. Here it is. Here it is. What are you going to do about that?
Ignore it.
Yeah, right. Ignore it. Let's not read that.
Oh, gosh.
All right, my friends. Thank you for traveling with these two. Hey, we're getting close to the end of Isaiah here. And
Hallelujah.
I like, I'll
Although
tell you
it's
what,
getting better.
I like this third
It's
Isaiah.
not ready for it to end.
I like third
You don't know
Isaiah.
what's coming after it, right?
Right. I love third Isaiah. I just love it. I love these writers and the writings that are part of it. So I'm glad for the relief. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for being here. Didn't get to say goodbye to
Thank you.
Paulette, but I know she's headed off to her other program, so.
Right. Yep.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Feel better, both of you, feel better.
Thanks.
Okay,
Take care.
all right,
Yeah.
bye.